Shabbat Shalom, everybody. It's Rav Shmuel here, Rav Shmuel ben Yehoshua, Rabbi Stephen Epstein, Rashbi. Got a lot of names here, just trying to figure out which one I like better. Which one do you like? Let me know. Okay, so sorry about the confusion, but I'm going to redo this recording. Apparently, I've done it earlier, and I did it before, a few days ago, and come to see that the audio did not get recorded, so all you've got is 10 minutes of me mouthing words. So I don't know that I could go back and dub it, but whatever. So I think I've worked the bugs out, and it seems like we're working now. So if I sound a little hoarse, looks like I've succumbed to whatever everybody else has been getting. You know, it was bound to happen. I'm doing my best to get over it. I hope you are too. Please stay healthy. Wear masks. If you're with somebody that is ill or fighting something, then take precautions, hand wash, again, use masks and, help them get over it. Interestingly enough, when in the Talmud, and right now in the Daf Yomi, we're studying the Tractate of Sanhedrin, which is one of the four tractates that deal with what we today call torts, which is helping somebody or making somebody whole after something happens, some legal or civil issue. Somebody gets something stolen. What happens if you borrow something and you lose it? What's the compensation? So basically, it's remedies. Sanhedrin specifically deals with, and it's a little creepy, but it talks about different ways that capital punishers, people who commit capital offenses are punished. In other words, what method of execution, whether it's strangulation, whether it's by fire, which is drinking molten lead. I kid you not, that's what it is. So being beheaded, really wonderful stuff. But the fun thing about the Talmud is the way it keeps going on sidebars. And it says that when you're ill, you're basically accounting for a sin. You're basically redeeming yourself for making up for a sin that you've committed. So interesting to think about that. Next time something bad happens to you, you get a flat tire, you get sick, or something, or you get fired, heaven forbid, fired from a job. Basically, according to the sages, that's what's happening. It's your compensation for sinning. And the reason why God does that to you in this life is so that in the world to come, whatever that is, you don't have to deal with it. You can go with a clean slate, or that's one, Forrest Gump, right? One less thing. And whatever the next step is in our soul's evolution, it's going to be that much easier. And it sounds kind of, I don't know, a little far-fetched, but it's it's positive. It's something to consider that, okay, I've done something and now I've had a chance to make up for it and atone, so I can move on. Okay, so let's talk about a new book that we're starting, which is Leviticus, Vayikra, he called. And now we've had all the excitement of building the Mishkan, building the Tabernacle, and now we're going to start using it. And I mentioned this in my written Devar Torah, but Mishkan, okay, so we know that when we start in our morning service, we have various sections to the service. We have our morning blessings, which we're thanking God for, little stuff, things we take for granted, being able to get out of bed in the morning, being able to use the bathroom, things like that. And then comes Pesukei de Zimra, which are hymns of praise, thanking God that, for our lives. That's what we're doing. God created us. God gives us this physical venue, which is basically what the Mishkan is. It's a physical venue with which to act and live our lives and grow and achieve things and, strive for more and more happiness. So when we get to the Shachri part of our service, and this is on Shabbat, when we do Shalchin Ad Marom Vekadosh Shemoho. So the Shalchin part of it means presence. And you've heard maybe the Shekhinah, which is God's presence, which is kind of like, God's presence that we take inside ourselves. Well, Mishkan is the same word. It's God's presence. So we have this physical structure which we have because we ourselves are physical beings, and we need that physical venue with which to go worship God. So back in the day when we had a temple, or in this case, the Mishkan, what do? We used animal offerings, and there were 4 basic offerings. There was the burnt offering, where the whole thing goes up in smoke. And this is because we just feel that connection to God, connection to Hashem, and we want to express it. Then we have the Thanksgiving offering, which today is somewhat akin to the Birkat HaGomel. So when you get through a dangerous situation, surgery, a bad illness, let's say it, a long trip in a plane or something, or a ship, which can be dangerous, you never know, right? Then you say the Birkat HaGomel, thanking God for getting you to your place or getting you through the dangerous situation. That's what the Thanksgiving offering is. Whereas the burnt offering is just everything goes up in smoke, and it's the ultimate sacrifice. You're giving something of yourself, of your possessions, to express, your love and your gratefulness that there is a God. For the Thanksgiving offering, it's really a little something more specific. Think of it that way. And only certain parts of the animal are offered, and the rest of it is one big barbecue. That's what it is. Everybody sits down, they have the meat, they have the wafers, the matzah that they had there, maybe some vegetables, I don't know. And it's nice because you get to invite your friends, and everybody else says, wow, it's an inspiration. This guy is putting on this big party for having gotten through this very challenging situation. So I'll remember that the next time something happens. I get through a very challenging situation. So we have the burnt offering and Thanksgiving offering. We then have the 2 expiation offerings. These are things to atone. So we have the guilt offering and, let's call it a mistake offering, an error. You've erred. Okay, so you have the chatat and the shogeg. So these are for unintentional sins, all right? Maybe you trespassed into somebody's boundaries, or maybe your calf intruded on somebody's land and started eating their grain or something like that. You couldn't help it, right? You didn't know, they're dumb animals, right? So you go in and you make it up to them, and you bring an offering to the temple. What happens if you were to do something like eat the wrong type of fat, for example? There's fat that you can't eat, and there's fat that you can't eat. What if you ate the wrong type of fat? It was a kosher animal, but again, there's only certain parts of the animal that you can enjoy. Or maybe, you went and ate some grain, and then later on found out it was designated, it was teruma. It was specifically designated for the Kohanim, for the priests. Okay, this is a way to make up for your mistakes. Now, Judaism does not see us as being inherently evil. We are human beings, all of us, made in the image of God. Now, does that mean that God is evil? No, it doesn't. It means that we're not evil too, but since we have free choice, there are times when we mess up. And Judaism gives us a path to redemption, see? And you can start over. That's what Yom Kippur is all about, okay? We did things wrong because we're flawed. We succumbed to temptation. We didn't take care to make sure, is that grain really for me to eat, or is it somebody else's? Or, maybe we got a little sloppy and didn't see our animals going over to, do whatever, okay? So it's a way to make up for things. Now, how do we do that today? We belong to a synagogue, okay? And we participate in the synagogue. I know that after World War II, there was a lot of synagogues open. There was a lot of people that joined. And we just came through a major disaster, and our people came together. Now, we've come through another major disaster, October 7th, 2023, right? And unfortunately, we don't have more and more Jews participating, but the Jews that are already participating, and this was told to me by the head of our local federation, but the Jews that are already involved are getting more and more involved. Now, while that sounds a little depressing, it's been this way forever, folks. You know the story of Hanukkah with the Maccabees leading the revolt? and please, somebody fact check me on this, but as I understand it, it was only the Maccabees that fought the Seleucids. That's why it took 7 years. It was only them. The Bar Kokhba revolution, only 1/3 of the Jews in Judea joined Bar Kokhba in the fight against the Romans. That's one of the reasons we lost. Old saying, folks, united we stand, divided we fall. It's true. So, little bit of a sermon there, but you get my meaning. Okay, so I'm going to review this. Hopefully, I think the sound came through. Shabbat Shalom. Let's everybody be healthy, wealthy, and wise. And as always, thanks for listening.